Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's lovely to have a full council chamber this evening, and we've got some special guests. And we'll introduce these young men later. I'd like to call the council meeting to order, and I'm going to ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I have one. I'm declaring on 7A MV 2023-13 McDonald Chiropractic, 12 Elora Street South. The applicants, Sean and Paige, are relatives of mine, son-in-law and daughter, so thank you. So, moving right along. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the closed session report regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land and personal matters about an unidentifiable individual, and further that the council approves the confidential direction to staff. All in favor of the motion? Before we go any further, I would like to ask, we've had some really good reports lately on our audience out there in our community listening to the videos of our council meetings. And we've had some complaints about, in the past, about them not being able to hear. So it's important that we all speak into the mics so we can make our ratepayers happy. So, moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the minutes of the Town of Minto, October 17th, 2023, closed session meeting, October 31st, 2023, regular council meeting, and November 1st, 2023, special council meeting be approved. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Resolution moved by Councillor Potnovich, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the Town of Minto Council convenes into the Committee of Adjustment. All in favor of that motion? So at this time, I'm declaring a conflict, and I'm going to pass the chair to our Deputy Mayor, Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I apologize. I would try and speak loud enough, but I put the mask on because we have head colds going around our house, and I didn't want to share. Didn't think anybody would appreciate that. So we are calling public order hearing to order and state that any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. This public hearing is to consider minor variance application MV 2023-1000316534 Ontario, care of Sean and Paige McDonald. And I'm going to call on Secretary Treasurer McRobb to give us some details.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. The property subject to the proposed minor variance application are legally described as Part Lot 2, together with and subject to right-of-way, and is municipally known as 12 Elora Street South, Harriston, in the Town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 0.11 acres or 0.04 hectares in size. The purpose and effect of the minor variance application is to provide relief from sections 6.13A and C and the Town of Minto's comprehensive zoning bylaw 0186 as amended. A commercial use or building may contain one or more accessory residential dwelling units above or to the rear of a main commercial use, whereas a basement unit is proposed. Additionally, each unit shall have a minimum floor area of 50 meters squared or 538.2 feet squared, whereas 44.59 meters or 480 feet squared is proposed. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owner within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and posted on the subject property on November 3rd, 2023. Reports and comments were received and attached for council to review from Ashley Sawyer for the Town of Minto, and as well as Jessica Rame from the Senior Planner for Wellington County. Sean McDonald, owner applicant, I believe, is in attendance.
I will now call on Ashley Sawyer for comments from the Town of Minto, please.
Perfect, thank you. So the subject property is locally known as McDonald Chiropractic and is in the downtown core of Harriston. It's a local business that provides a variety of healthcare services and currently has on staff chiropractors, dietitians, reflexologists, a psychotherapist, and a kinesiologist. As the business is continuing to grow, additional office space is required. There is currently an apartment on the main floor of the rear of the building that is proposed to be relocated to the basement. As a result, the owner is proposing to convert that portion of the upstairs to more office space. To do this, relief is required as noted to permit for the unit to be in the basement, as the bylaw words that it's permitted to the rear of or above the commercial use and not below. Additionally, relief is also required for the minimum floor area. 538.2 square feet is required, whereas an absolute minimum of 480 square feet is proposed. They're likely to be a little bit larger than that, but we do just like to give buffer room with the minor variance so they don't have to come back again. And this is a difference of approximately 58 square feet. Wellington County's Planning Department, Source Water Protection, and Maitland Valley have all noted no concerns. And town staff are satisfied that the relief requested meets the 4 tests of the minor variance, and we are recommending the relief be approved. We did not receive any additional comments or concerns prior to the submission of the report from neighboring landowners or external agencies.
Thank you. Sean, are you interested in speaking? Do you have anything to add? No. Okay. And then Secretary Treasurer McRobb, you have resolutions for the committee to consider. Are there any questions from the council?
Councillor Dirksen, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. I was just curious, I read somewhere, and I can't find the word now, but it said that the apartment was going to be demolished. Is it actually going to be renovated or demolished?
So my understanding is that they're going to remove the one that's currently on the rear of the building and then essentially relocate that unit down to the basement instead. So they're not losing a unit per se, they're relocating it so they have additional office space on the main floor.
Right, so the apartment will be underneath where it is now then. Is that the idea?
Essentially.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Any questions from anybody else in the room? Seeing none and hearing none, I'll now move to Secretary Treasurer McRobb.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I think what I'll do is I'll provide you with a resolution to approve. Just to let you know that upon a resolution being carried or defeated, the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of this decision. It's that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment approves the application by 100031653 care of Sean and Paige McDonald for property legally described as Part Lot 22, together with and subject to right-of-way municipally known as 12 Elora Street South, Harriston, in the Town of Minto, to provide relief from Section 6.13A and C of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 01-86 as amended, to permit accessory residential dwelling units in the basement of the existing commercial structure with a minimum area of 44.59 meters squared or 480 feet squared. We would require a mover and a seconder for that.
Okay, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Podnowitz, all those in favor? Perfect, then that is passed. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the Town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Harriston, NOG 1Z0, or by email at annaline@townofminto.on.ca. And I will now officially adjourn the meeting. And turn the chair back over to Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Anderson. I have a motion, a resolution moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment convene into Committee of the Whole. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. So we have no public meetings this evening, but we do have delegations. So I'm going to read something here, and then I'm going to come out and make a presentation. So tonight we're recognizing 2 athletes from Minto, Zach Dobson, Josh Metziger, and their outstanding achievements at the U15 Canadian Boys Fastball Pitch Championship in Saskatchewan this past August. Both played on the Minto Crush U15 team, as well as the Terra Longhorns, a tournament team to bolster their roster for the Nationals. After some wins and losses in the round robin, the team used an 8-run outburst in the top of the 7th of their first elimination game to rally past Elmira by a score of 12-9. In a mostly close championship game against Newfoundland, the team used a 5-run top of the 7th to take a commanding 8-run lead, and they won the final score 10-3. So we are glad to have we're very glad to have Zach and Josh here this evening and their families. It's the second biggest crowd that we've had in the last year. And the last one, I think we had something similar. So Zach and Josh, please step up here if you don't mind. So we're glad this evening to have Zach and Josh, if you don't mind turning and facing your families. We're glad to have Zach and Josh here tonight, as well as their families. First up, we have third baseman Zach Dobson. And he's got that curly hair just like his grandpa. So this certificate of recognition presented to Zach Dobson in recognition of your outstanding achievement, U15 Boys National Fastball Pitch Champion, representing Ontario at the Canadian Championships. Success never comes in a day. It comes with strong determination and with great hard work. And you are an example of that. May you always remember how much you're needed, respected, and valued within this community. I mean, U15, Zach. I mean, many of us, in fact, I think likely all of us in this room have never really ever won anything past our league, unless somebody can disagree with that. Other than curling, it's an honor for you to be here, for us to have you here, and congratulations to you. And I'll give you a chance in a moment to speak. So I'll help you with your speech, okay? Second one is for Josh Metziger, certificate of recognition. It says a lot the same, Josh. In recognition of your outstanding achievement, U15 Boys National Fastball Pitch Championship Tournament All-Star, representing Ontario at the Canadian National Championships. Success never comes in a day, comes with strong determination and with great hard work, and you're an example of that. May you always remember how much you are needed, respected, and valued within this community. Congratulations, Josh. I mean, it's an honor for you to play with your U15 team here in town, but it's a real honor to be picked up by another center and taken out west to Saskatchewan. That's terrific. So, Zach, you're first. Unless you don't want to. Yes or no? Josh, okay, you can speak for both of you. Okay?
Wow, I actually wasn't expecting this. I got home one day and Dad says, "Oh, you got this council meeting got to go to." I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty sweet." And then talks about whenever me and Zach went to this league, Zach's already played in this league before. He's a bit of a pro. I just came up as a rookie, but I didn't think this tournament was going to be a huge deal. But then and then there was the House of Commons. We got mentioned by the House of Commons by the representative of the, I guess, Chats. I think it's like the Chatsworth kind of that township area. Yeah, and so that was pretty cool. And then I hadn't even been in this place before. This is pretty sweet. So, no, it was a really amazing experience. It was great team bonding. Everybody on the team was super nice people. Very good of them. They were super welcoming, even though they've never met us, never heard of us. They were super nice people, and yeah, it was an experience I will never forget. So, thank you.
So at this time, you can likely thank your parents.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mom and Dad.
I said I was going to help you.
Yeah, thank you, Mom and Dad, family, everybody, for taking us to practices, games, everything. Can't do it without you. So thank you very much.
And that comes from Zach as well, right? So,
Ditto.
again, congratulations and good luck next year. I guess it's, you won the Canadians this year, and maybe next year's the Worlds. So, good luck to you. Thank you. Oh, sorry,
Oh, oh.
picture.
You get the middle of it, too?
Come on. Snuggle up. I got my mask on. You're safe.
So, Josh, don't wait so long to come back, okay? Your dad's been here before. Zach, your dad's been here, so tag along sometime. So if you guys, you can stay for the council meeting, or you can, I think you've been well taught.
You should come back again. He's a natural.
Just want to say thank you. They put a lot of effort. Extreme. Excited.
Terrific. Thanks, Jeremy. Andrew, were you here when I asked, when we opened the meeting about speaking into the mic? No, okay, so, and I'm sure that you're going to be speaking tonight, so the next, our next delegation is Nexus Renewables, proposed battery storage project, Andrew Lynn and Keith Sandor from the Nexus Renewable. So if you guys don't mind going to the podium, introducing yourselves and using the microphone. Annaline, did these young men sign in? Do they have to sign in? Should they sign in?
They don't need to sign in. It was just
Okay.
for the public meeting. Signatures were required.
Okay, so welcome, you guys. Thank you for coming,
Great.
and the
great.
floor is yours.
Thanks, everyone. It's a hard act to follow after those 2 stars, but we'll try to keep you guys awake. I'm Andrew Lynn, and this is our CEO, Keith Sandor, and we're from Nexus Renewables. Probably haven't heard of us, but you've probably heard of Interstore, and Interstore is our partner. We're also quite aware that Interstore already presented to you folks about a year ago in December. Again, we're trying not to bore you with a lot of the same things. Let me just quickly say that it is similar to that presentation from last year insofar as we are proposing to renovate or to refurbish the facility that Interstore has. Is currently a flywheel facility. It retains energy, and we're proposing to replace it with a what's called a battery energy storage system. So a lot of it is similar to what you had heard last year. The only difference is that as opposed to just Interstore themselves, it's actually a partnership between Interstore and Nexus. And so we're going to give you a little bit of a different spin here, and we're going to have Keith here go through a few of our slides. Again, some of them are somewhat similar, but you'll get the gist of it.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Mayor, Council, and staff for having us here. We really appreciate the time to present in front of you. this repowering of a technology or a facility that has, we see that has a lot of value. We're going to be walking through or providing you a little bit of background on who Nexus Renewables is. We're going to be walking through why the province is looking for this type of repowering, why now, and we're going to be walking through really why this project is one of the more attractive projects to participate in this upcoming. It's an RFP that the province has actually launched. And lastly, we're going to walk through some of the steps that we take to develop the project, construct the project, and operate the project. And it really starts with seeking municipal support, which is the reason why we're here. Yeah, just a little background on us. We're a Canadian-based renewable energy developer. We started out in 2020. We're all Canadian. There's about 9 of us. We're based in Toronto. Our growth path hasn't been, I wouldn't consider it consistent with what other typical Canadian organizations or Canadian startups are. We started off focusing our efforts in the United States. The United States has a lot of policy that advocates for renewables and for energy storage. The timing was right for us to move into or to start our business in even though we're based out of Toronto, started in the States. We started off in New York, developing some solar projects. We quickly pivoted to California, to Texas and Illinois. We do have projects underway in all of those states. Some of them are through early stage development, some are through midway through construction. Given that we started our company in 2020, we don't have anything that's fully operational as of yet. That will change in Q1 of next year. But we're circling back to Ontario, just given the latest policy changes, especially with there's you could say something called the an investment tax credit that's really out there that's specific towards solar, towards energy storage, and it's something that's really incenting the economy over here to really pick up where it last left off, I'd say in 2010. What we do as a developer is really simple. We three steps. We originate sites. So that is, we look for sites that are relatively valuable for the electricity system. It's sites that have really low sense of congestion. They're easy to connect to the utility system. There's not a lot of kind of demolition or grading or anything to that nature. It's really straightforward. And what we do is we enter into agreements with landowners. We'll either lease the land or we'll purchase the land, often at a premium to what landowners would normally get. And then secondly, we develop projects. So we're a team of 9. We're not super staffed with an army of folks. But when we develop projects, we typically outsource our development activities to local consultants or engineering firms that have relationships with the communities. So that is an aspect that of our business model, is really partnering with really kind of local boots on the ground, for a lack of better words. And when we construct our projects, we don't have any, we don't self-perform any of the construction itself. We generally tender that out, but as part of the tendering process, we make sure we include provisions for such that the EPC contractors sub out a lot of the work to local civil works and whatnot. We just, I guess, everything for us at least is geared towards making sure that we're bringing business to the economy, whether it's not just to the landowner that we're either leasing the land off, but it's also to the general economy or the general economic development of the community. in terms of, sorry, I didn't have the mic that close here. In terms of how we're set up, we were originally financed through some family offices in Toronto. We've grown. It's kind of costly to build a lot of these projects. They're upwards of like $10+ million. So we've more recently secured funding through a climate fund in the United States. It's actually backed by the Walton family. So they've been investing in a number of our projects in the U.S. They're excited to see us circle back into Ontario, which is great. Separately, we also have financing relationships with a few banks based out of the U.S. In our next, I think in the next slide is where we go through and we just touch on like why now? Why is the Ontario government really looking for new batteries or new energy storage at this time? Really, back in the early 2000s, with the automotive sector kind of curtailing or coming off, I think it was probably during the financial crisis around that time. The Ontario government put in place some renewable energy policies to really promote a lot of solar and wind generation. Over the next few years, what happened in Ontario was there was a surplus of solar and a surplus of wind. What it did was it caused electricity rates to really rise up. And for a short period of time, there was a surplus. Right now, where we stand, especially with a lot of the electrification in the transportation industry, and also really a lot of electrical load demand coming on from data centers, and even just there's a lot of manufacturing taking place that is highly electrical intensive. There is another need for more generation in the province of Ontario. The province's system operator, it's the IESO. They've put out a forecast which helps guide, bless you, which helps guide the province. They've really come out with a plan that's advocating for the need for 4,000 megawatts of new demand. That's fairly sizable. It's actually greater than the size of Pickering, the Pickering Generating Station, or Darlington, or Bruce Power, those big nuclear facilities. And so what they're doing is, given that they have that need, and that there's also really a need to procure generation that's carbon friendly, they've structured this procurement such that it's geared towards technologies that are carbon neutral. And for that matter, they've really opened it up to energy storage. We believe, in terms of, I guess on the next slide, we believe that the Harriston Energy Storage Facility is a great candidate for this. It's a facility that was already connected into the grid. It was, as you guys know, it was operational in 2014. The goal of the system at the time was really to advocate for newer technologies. It was a flywheel technology. It's something that isn't quite used right now. What it does is it services 15 minutes spurts of electricity need. The province has kind of moved over towards more longer term generation, which is generally something that can service at least 4 hours of need. But the core infrastructure is in place so that there's not a lot of repowering work that needs to take place. So that's why we see it as being a really good fit for this upcoming procurement. It's really small. It's about a 10 megawatt facility that is what we're proposing. 10 megawatts of roughly 4,000 megawatts is not a huge piece, but it contributes. And if you get a bunch of these 10 megawatt systems, you put them all together, it's a nice way of solving the province's current problem of needing new generation. In terms of the project plan itself, because this is an existing facility, because it's already been connected to the utility, Because it's actually it's sized relatively small. The permitting process, the actual construction, the utility review is less intensive, and it's something that can take place in a much shorter time frame than some of these larger facilities that you may have heard of. They're 100 plus megawatts. They take a long time to build. So for us, what we're envisioning is a construction cycle that's probably going to take, I don't know, upwards of 12 to 18 months, a permitting process that's going to take another 12 months, and we believe we're going to have our project up and running around that time. In terms of the immediate steps that need to be taken, right now, as I mentioned, there is a solicitation or an RFP for this for energy storage, and that's coming up in the middle of December, in advance of submitting our proposal or our package. We wanted to reach out to yourselves to see if there's support for this and field any questions. We're as part of our development cycle, we very engaging with the local community, with all stakeholders, and it's just something that we do like to incorporate into our planning process. Maybe I'll just pause right there and see if there's any questions.
Questions?
Just one minute.
Councillor Gunson, go ahead.
Question for you. So lithium batteries, is that what we're kind of proposing?
Yeah, that's correct.
So fire protection, if a fire happens to break out, what's the protocol? Is it, like I've read in the news, that they could last 24 hours, these fires burn for? Is it something you've seen, or?
I personally haven't seen it. I've seen it on video in New York. I think they had a fire that, and yes, these runway fires, they do extend for prolonged periods of time. When we design our batteries, we actually adhere to the most stringent codes across North America. It actually comes from New York City. So a lot of the other states and provinces across North America are modeling their fire protection programs based off of New York standards. All of our batteries that we put in the ground are based off of New York standards. They all come with a fire suppression control. I think the technology is actually called NIDEC. It's a gas-based fire suppression. There's a lot of education that goes on to the fire department as well to make sure that they're well informed on how to treat it if something does go on. There's also I think wireless feeds that actually will automatically contact the fire department upon smoke or whatnot. So there is plenty of protection that's involved. And the way we actually build or design, we adhere to kind of the most stringent standards that are up there.
Councillor Potnowitz.
Yeah, through you, Mike Certain. What's the lifespan of these batteries that you would be putting in there, and then what would be how would you dispose of them? I guess at the end of their life.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the recycling programs are maybe first off, I'll start and address the question on the lifespan. These batteries are generally designed for 20 years of life. They degrade. It's very similar to your cell phone. Cell phones don't last for 15 or 20 years. But to account for the shorter the degradation, we overbuild the battery. So if we do need 4 megawatts or 10 megawatts, we'll put in roughly 60% more than that, so that we can account for the degradation over time. But at the end of the useful life, which is the 20-year lifespan, then there is a recycling program that takes place. When we enter into our lease agreements, we do have provisions in there, and even in when we're financing these projects with our sponsor, there is a requirement for us to put I guess a bond. It's like a decommissioning bond to be in place, so that at the end of that life, we're not just walking away and all of a sudden there's this radioactive waste that's lingering around. So we do take a prudent approach to making sure that the site is restored to its original state upon decommissioning.
Follow.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Podovitz.
So who holds that bond, and you have to get certification through the Ministry of Environment? Is that where your approval process comes through?
Yeah, that's just one of the approvals. So there's the Ministry of Environment. We contact all authorities that are having jurisdiction over the site. So if there's some local bylaws, we make sure that we need a building permit. Even to get the building permit, there's a separate discretionary permits that we need to get. We have to contact the Department of Transportation even. There's just a whole bunch of different permits that are required that we will be getting as part of our plan. As we move forward, we will put together a very robust permitting plan to walk through our activities and what's required.
And who secures the bond?
Oh, and the bond it's part of our financing, so it's something that we would provide. It's our financiers. We generally put, we'll use debt for a lack of better words, and it's really the lenders that would require us to have that bond in place, just as part of making our project bankable and commercial.
Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
You're obviously doing this to make money, I would assume. So how do you make money, and what do you sell it to? Your electricity at the end of the day, and
Yeah,
if it doesn't make you money, what happens then?
Yeah. No, that's a really good. That's a really tough question in some states that we do business in. In Ontario, it's a lot easier. We because of the way the province procures the generation, and because of the type of the need of generation that's out there right now, it's really more because we have so much renewables on the grid. We call that intermittent generation. It's very difficult to forecast when the wind blows or when the sun shines. So what the system operator needs is some sort of technology to kind of firm that up, to make sure that, hey, in the event that there's a bunch of cloud cover or a rolling thunderstorm, what can really step in to make sure that they fill this gap? Storage is the technology that is called on. So the type of dispatch signals that we receive are generally for those types of outages. It doesn't occur all that frequently, so we don't really run the battery all that much, but we do receive a standby payment just for having it available. So it's consider it it's not the primary use of serving electricity needs, but it's more along the lines of a supportive infrastructure that's there.
Go ahead.
And
Councillor Elliott.
who pays you?
So it's the province. So it's a competitive procurement that we're bidding into. So we've got to sharpen our pencils when we're putting it bidding in there. But yeah, ultimately the check comes from the province for having it available. We take a very long-lived view on the asset or on the project. So in terms of how we look at it, we look at it to be there for at least between 30 to 40 years. So it's a very, by the time we can recover our investment, it's quite a few years out. It's not a quick you're in and you're out. It's something that's there for a long time.
Thanks.
Other question? So, Keith, so we are looking at removing the flywheels out of the building. You're not putting anything in the building, right? The lithium batteries do not go in the building, so
No.
the building's just going to sit empty?
So that's the idea right now is we're going to be building adjacent to the building. The way these batteries are structured, it's very modular. The way the technology has evolved, they come in containerized solutions where there's a bunch of battery cells, the inverter, everything's all structured. We don't want to put our hands and kind of get finicky and rearrange stuff just because that's kind of where fires happen. Let the experts do what they're best at doing. So we will site the battery containers adjacent to the building. What we will do though is we will be disposing of the existing infrastructure. Currently, our understanding is that there is the technology is still utilized in some areas in the Caribbean, and we're looking just really for an off-taker, just because the technology is still in good shape. It's just the flywheels themselves. For the other infrastructure the balance of plant infrastructure that's there, we'll be repurposing whatever we can from that, so that it's less cost and it's more efficient. And why bother recycling something that you can still use?
Quinn, will you back up the slideshow just to show the building? So we're talking sea containers?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so we're like a dozen or so?
It'll be just over a dozen, probably 15 or so.
So they're, what are they, 8 feet by 40?
By 20-ish or
8
so.
by 20,
Yeah.
so the small ones. So,
Yeah.
so can you picture where they would sit? Like let's say the property there is the grass, the green grass. You would sit them in and around the building.
Yeah. So ideally, we would want to site it as close to where the feeder is actually tying into the grid. We do recognize, there's some paved areas as well. But we would be paving a lot more of the footprint just for fire code access. It's just a general requirement. But broadly, I'd say it's probably around 13 to 14,000 square feet of space that this would require.
So what's stopping us from the town from approaching IESO and getting some of these containers ourselves? Or are you developing and building the containers, putting the lithium batteries in them, or how's that work?
So there is nothing stopping you. We would love to work with you on some other projects. One of the reasons why we're partnering with Enerstore is we're not pre-qualified. We were never pre-qualified to participate in this. So I think for this next procurement that's coming up for next year, it's something that we would definitely entertain is partnering. I think that's something that we've done in the States. We would love to do it over here. Is partner with some of the towns. We are partnering with First Nation communities for this project and for some of the other ones that we're developing over here as well. So it's if all goes according to plan with this one, we would love to talk to you guys to see if there's interest on some land. I could tell you in the past dealings, what we've done is we've approached industrial development agencies or economic development agencies, really for land that has been reclaimed, generally stuff that's nobody really wants to build on right now. We would love to build renewable projects on it. It's just a nice story. You're taking something that's dirty and you're turning it into something that's clean. So I think if you guys do have any land that you feel that suits that bill, we would love to even start that discussion early on.
Key would likely be to be very, very close to a large wire.
Yeah.
Other questions? Go ahead, Ed.
Yes.
Councillor Podovitz.
So this looks to be, it's going to be self-sufficient, in regards to having employees on site here. So is there employees there now, or are we going to enhance that, or is there anybody there at all?
No, there'll be folks coming by, obviously, to do maintenance and to check in, but there's no permanent employees staffed at the facility. We will require local contractors to perform that work. It's just very expensive to send somebody out from a centralized spot, especially given that we don't currently have any facilities here in Ontario. So this would be considered almost a hub for us, because this would be one of two projects that we're actually participating on.
Councillor Elliott.
As I'm sitting here and think of a question,
Yeah.
Health issues. Is there any problem in our community of some sort of electricity going out?
No. I'd say if anything, the environmental study that takes place is really revolved around the noise level. The inverters do make some noise, so we will test the noise level at various distances from the point source just to make sure it falls within the needs. And if it doesn't, we'll create some sound barriers to make sure that it's mitigated. But other than that, like, no, there's nothing. It's really just a very big hum.
Do you prefer rural or do you prefer close to a community?
So it's interesting. For solar development, we would typically prefer rural, just because really it's an eyesore for a lot of folks. But for storage, it's generally close to the community, especially given some of the benefits. So aside from the technology really just being like a standby kind of infrastructure, if there is an outage, you want that resource to be as close to you as possible.
Okay, sorry. Deputy Mayor Anderson?
Thank you. So I toured this building like years and years ago when this first opened. There's a bank, a large bank of computers that were constantly reading the input from the central line and whatever power line. Power is not my thing, other than I want it when I want it. And I'd love to get off the grid if I could. So if this building is going to be decommissioned, it's going to be gone.
It may be hollowed out, and we may use it for perhaps for other batteries. Like right now, the tests that have been, we had to run these pre-feasibility tests.
Yeah.
The tests came back and really it permitted us to install 10 megawatts. So in the event for the second procurement that we can build a greater footprint, then yeah, we would probably come back to you and with a new plan, and that may involve decommissioning it, or it may involve just kind of repurposing it if possible.
So what triggers, or how does the energy get accessed from the batteries? I'm assuming the batteries are storing energy and the power line is experiencing a surge in demand, so it wants to feed into that. What triggers that if it doesn't have that bank of computers that are constantly clicking and beeping and
so yeah, there is two types of connections. There's a hardwire connection that's going to be just going through your normal communication. It's a normal interconnect, and then also a wireless connection that goes to our control center. And that's where that data is stored. It's all cloud-based right now. So all the data is it's in a secure cloud, and from there, it's we'll receive signals from the system operator to as to when to dispatch, when to charge and discharge, et cetera.
So down the road in the future, we're talking, the government says we're all going to have electric vehicles. I have great difficulty understanding where they think all the hydro's coming from, because they can't build another Niagara Falls, I don't think. Would these sorts of structures be, like, we're going to need lithium or uranium or something to produce hydro? Will these setups, these CCANs, will these storage things become more common as we need to meet the demand ever increasing of hydro across the world?
Yeah,
Ontario specifically?
That's a great question. Just charging if you have a Tesla or an electric vehicle, when you charge that thing, it's equivalent to 6 houses drawing electricity from the
Is it?
grid. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's.
And I've questioned right from the beginning,
Yeah.
where's the hydro? They said, well, we have lots of hydro. Well, we did at the time, because we were giving it away to the states. But
Yeah.
things have changed. And if you change every vehicle into an electric vehicle and we outlaw carbon fuel, we only have hydro.
Yeah.
We're going to exponentially increase the demand. I'm fascinated to see how they think this is going to be met.
Yeah, I think one way is maybe plug in your car and charge it at different times, so it somehow levels things out. It might become smart enough, the chargers become smart enough as to when to charge, when to discharge.
Yeah.
But I don't think it currently does that right now.
It's interesting technology.
Yeah.
And I come from a health background, and every battery I've ever met etches a memory.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see long-term whether all of these batteries do that, because by our nature, we'll recharge them and then we'll decrease the capability, and that has happened for a long time in healthcare, and we haven't solved it yet. But anyway, interesting.
So Keith, what you need from us tonight is a resolution endorsing, we support.
That's correct, yeah. So there's a prescribed form where we would be seeking right now a resolution to, if there is support, to complete the prescribed form. In parallel, we will also be running a kind of a virtual meeting. We've reached out to a lot of the neighboring landowners just to advise them of, hey, look, this is something that we're thinking of. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. We do incorporate feedback into our plans all the time.
It would like to be fenced.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything, so I'm going to read a resolution, and if we're good with it, we can pass it, or if there's something that we need to add to it, so that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the delegation from Nexus Renewables for information and further request staff to bring forward a report for the December 5th, 2023 council meeting. Would that catch it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, then I need a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Anderson, Councillor Elliott. Everybody understand what we're doing? We're endorsing Nexus. So your next step is to see what IESO is going to say.
That's
If
correct.
they turn you down, why, then you might have a partner, another partner.
Yeah.
So. Yes, go ahead.
I believe this wouldn't be for for you to sign the prescribed form, but for a report to come forward from staff first prior to signing the form. That would be what that motion would do. It wouldn't be signing the prescribed form, but for staff to bring forward a report before that decision was made by council. That's my understanding of that motion.
Keith, is this time sensitive?
Yeah, it is. So
Yeah, the RFP submission deadline is December the 12th. So insofar as the report is done by the 5th, and then that falls with the prescribed form, that would fit the timeline. The consultation, the virtual consultation meeting that we're going to have with the community, I believe it's on the 7th or the 8th of December. So we're trying to do everything before the December 12th deadline.
So Andrew, you're saying then that December 5th is fine?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right, all in favor of the motion? That's carried unanimously. So it's been an interesting discussion. Thank you very much.
Great.
Appreciate.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. So you gentlemen can stay, or you can you can do like the.
Yeah.
So we'll be in touch with you guys. So thanks a lot. So we have question period. Any questions? Hearing none, we're going to move along to the correspondence. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Gunson. The council received the correspondence as information. There's a few here that are interesting. A is the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority for the next 12 months. That's their draft budget. Other than that, is there any that want to be pulled out? Go ahead, Councillor Zimmerman.
I would like to have a discussion on the municipality of Wawa in support of increasing the tax credit for volunteer firefighters.
Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Anderson. So we'll pull that out. Have a discussion, staff report, and we'll talk about it next meeting. Or anything else, Deputy Mayor Anderson? Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Do we need to pull H and discuss it further, or I know the town has spoken to it again later in the reversal, but do we need to pull that correspondence at all?
CBO Kuipers.
So there is a report coming forward later at council tonight in regards to that. So
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I just didn't know if that covered all of it or if we need to discuss it anymore. But
Anything else? So, a motion by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Council of the Town of Minto supports the municipality of Wawa's resolution to support the tax credits for firefighters, and furthermore, that a copy of the resolution be shared with MP John Nader, the Association of Fire Chiefs of Ontario, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. So we'll go back to the original motion. All in favor of that motion? That's what's left over of the other correspondence. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Reports of committees. We have none. We are moving along to a virtual, and we have Heather Wickenheiser on tonight. We're talking about Wellington County Emergency Management 2023 Annual Emergency Management Program. Are you there, Heather?
I am here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I apologize I'm not there in person. I did come down with a bit of a sickness today, and I live down the road, but I did not want to get everyone sick. So thank you very much for having me virtually.
So for everyone that doesn't know Heather, she lives in the town of Hairston, and she's got a big job with the county. So Heather, go ahead.
Thank you so much. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I am here tonight to show you guys the annual emergency management program report for 2023. The recommendation for this report is that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the annual emergency management program report for this year and accepts the report on the status of the town's emergency management program as presented. The background is the following report outlines the municipal requirements set out in the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and how the municipality has fulfilled these requirements for this year. So for the program committee, the town has an emergency management program committee. The committee has met in person on March 8th of this year to review the town's emergency management program. This includes going over the hazard identification and risk assessment, emergency response plan, training needs, proposed annual exercise date, and public education program for this year. For the emergency response plan, the existing emergency response plan was adopted by council in the fall of 2020. The training prescribed for this year has not changed from the 2018 guidance note on training requirements issued by Emergency Management of Ontario. Members of the town's municipal emergency control group, both primary and alternates, have all satisfied the training requirements for this year. While much of the prescribed training is covered during the municipality's annual emergency management exercise, additional training opportunities have been provided to municipal emergency control group members throughout this year. This includes, we've done the basic emergency management course in June, on June 28th, the senior elected officials workshop on June 23rd, the IMS 200 on October 19th, the self-paced municipal emergency control group essentials PowerPoint presentation, the self-paced emergency operations center function training. It is a requirement that all members participate in annual exercises as well for this year. So we did do this on November 2nd, and the objectives for the exercise were as follows. So it was to evaluate current plans, policies, and procedures in place that identify how to provide shelter to members of the public during an emergency. Review the plans, policies, and procedures of involved organizations/jurisdictions to coordinate, develop, and disseminate information and notifications to public regarding weather advisories, road conditions, and emergency shelter availability. as well as to familiarize municipal emergency control group members with incident management system roles and emergency operations center procedures. The recommendations and outcomes of this exercise were: 1, communication. So as the exercise identified a need to monitor apps commonly used by the public during emergencies, such as Waze, to ensure accurate information where possible. Further, the Municipal Emergency Control Group agreed that using all methods of communications is necessary during any incident. It is further agreed that having pre-incident meetings are critical to smooth response. The Municipal Emergency Control Group will create a group chat where they can all talk if necessary and will include the County Emergency Management Team. The second recommendation was emergency shelters. It was noted that municipal staff and potentially volunteers would like to be trained on shelter management when the shelter training is completed in 2024 by our team. The town would like to run a mock shelter setup. We will reach out to the town to do so when available, and we'll work with the town to arrange this. The third recommendation out of the exercise was increased IMS training, and it was suggested that more training on the IMS function is needed, and that we'll create cheat sheets for the IMS roles to be added to all emergency operations centers. Public education for this year. Every municipality's emergency management program must have public education on risks to public safety and on public preparedness for emergencies. Emergency Preparedness Week occurred this year, May 7th to 13th. During this week, information was made available through the county's Emergency Management County social media page, as well as the county page in the Wellington Advertiser and radio ads. Promotional material were also offered at libraries throughout the county. We attended the Minto Fire Halloween party event on October 27th and gave out emergency preparedness information, Band-Aid dispensers, and as well as put out information on the county page, social media accounts on an average 4 posts per month, and Minto often shares those as well. The emergency management team participated in Safe Communities Day, which occurred on October 5th, which included different schools throughout the entire county. The Emergency Management Division also continues to do a Do One Thing promotion, where we focus one message per month. And this is continued throughout January all the way to December. And we make sure that those messages are continuous with what pertains to those months. For critical infrastructure, every municipality shall identify the facilities and other elements of the infrastructure that are at risk of being affected by emergencies. The critical infrastructure list was updated for the town at the committee meeting. Critical infrastructure identification is managed digitally through a common operating picture with the County GIS division. We are currently working with County GIS to update and simplify the critical infrastructure layer within the mapping software, and it is to be completed completely by 2024. Conclusion, the town of Minto has fulfilled the mandatory municipal requirements set out in the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act and Regulation 380-04 for 2023. Financial considerations for this is none. The strategic plan at the moment is to protect the health and safety of the community and citizens, businesses, and the environment by supporting a quality volunteer fire department, emergency preparedness, and access to healthcare, prevention, and wellness opportunities. Thank you for your time tonight, and I'm open to any questions.
Questions for Heather? Okay, Heather, we got a motion by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the annual Emergency Management Program report for 2023 and accepts the report on the status of the town's emergency management program for 2023. No questions? All in favor of the motion? Heather, thank you very much for coming. I've attended numerous meetings with you. You always come well prepared, and I feel very confident that you and your committee will protect us when we need your protection, along with the support of our staff. I mean, it's got a big job, but we appreciate what you do for us. So thank you very much. Have a great evening. Who's winning the hockey game?
Thank you, Marion. Thank you, councillors, and everyone have a great evening as well.
Thank you. Have a good night. I'm going to pass the chair over to Councillor Gunson.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So Public Works has 2 reports tonight, and the first one is on servicing reserve capacity update, and Acting CEO Chris Harrow is going to report on that.
I'm going to introduce this before I pass it over to the experts. But we've been working with Triton on this presentation. So if we could just throw the presentation up. This is the annual report that comes back to council. It's taking a little bit different spin this year because what we're going to be seeking at the end in the recommendation is taking this back and having council direct us to start working on and bring back to you, excuse me, an allocation bylaw for allocating services of water and sewer to different developments. But the background is the reserve capacity calculations. So it's done annually. You always get this report. It's to help us plan for future and existing sanitary and water services. And we give you the updated capacities, and it changes from year to year depending on how dry the weather was from that year, how much infiltration we've had in the system, how much we've been able to stop infiltration, and about new services that we've put in. So the county is currently uses this in their calculations in their comprehensive review process that is on again and off again, but that they use to help us direct our different our development. The servicing strategy is done to prepare the town for future growth, as I said, and it's done. It provides us guidance on upgrades, expansions, and that. So when they look at a project, they use the servicing strategy, the guys, to see where we need to go and how big we need to go and where we need to expand and what's the best bang for our buck. So a lot of time goes into staff time goes into the servicing strategy, and it's definitely a document we use all the time. It says here looks after the horizontal and the vertical infrastructure that we have all over. So just a quick status of the items since the February 2022 meeting. So we've been about a year and a half getting this back to you, but you can see that the town council in 2022 adopted the servicing strategy. So that was completed. And then we committed to looking at in 2022 to 2026 now we're undertaking water projects mostly. We know that water capacity in Palmerston and Harrison, if all development went forward at a rapid pace, we could reach levels that are insufficient. We're confident that's not imminent, but it is definitely something we're looking at and we need to address. So as you can see here, we have the EAs, Class EAs are both underway in Palmerston and Harrison to look for reasonings and rationale on what we can do to improve our water system to improve our capacity. It could lead to better efficiency, more I&I work, new wells. It looks at all of the stuff and will make recommendations through that EA process on what we need to do to improve the capacity in our water system. So that's ongoing, and that's the main project that these two gentlemen are undertaking right now. And then the next step would be starting to take an EA, a Class EA, to look at our wastewater system in Palmerston and also look at our water storage system in Palmerston, which are, again, future projects, but the wastewater plant one is probably one that needs to be started because Mark can talk to you more about that. But a Class EA could take upwards of 7 years to complete before we can get going on projects at a wastewater plant. So something we want to stay proactive with in that. I'm going to turn it over to Mark and Todd, and they're going to run you through the updated projections and the capacities with these charts.
Okay, we could just go to the next slide. That'd be great. I just want to take a second and go through these graphs just because they are pretty busy. So for people to, for council just to look at them and understand them. If you look at the bottom graph on the left-hand side, the Palmerston sewage treatment capacity, on the left-hand axis, that shows our reserve capacity with the black line in the center of the graph representing 0. Obviously, above 0, green means good. That's where we have capacity. Red is we're out of capacity. Along the bottom of the axis, that's obviously time in years. And then the 3 different lines that move across the chart from left to right and top to bottom are showing 3 different growth projections. The top line the purple line, it's showing average growth from 2000 to 2020 to 2022. So that average growth rate in that span, and then it just projects it out to past 2050. And in Palmerston, if you were to look at that, that takes us out, almost where we have capacity out to roughly in the mid 2040s. The middle line, the orange line, that's the county growth projection that's come up through the MCR process, and that's what we originally used to come up with the servicing strategy when we were setting our timelines. Obviously it's projecting that the growth is going to increase a little bit more quickly, with that line intersecting zero capacity at around 2036. And with all the changes going on in the provincial guidelines and all that, and with an increased pressure from development, we just thought it'd be interesting to see what the full build out, like the full potential build out of our urban areas at the max growth capacity or max density would be. And that's represented by the blue line. That's the lowest line there where it intersects that black line for the Palmerston graph around 2030. So we thought it was interesting to put all those on a graph and have council able to visualize the differences in how a growth rate may impact certain infrastructure needing to be replaced or upgraded.
If we can go to the next slide there, we'll take another look at it. So we'll take a look at Hairston. That's the water system that we're getting a little tighter on capacity. So Mark explained the graph, but if you look at the graph for Hairston in the top left there, it's set up the exact same way. So as Mark said, probably where we're gonna hit zero is going to be somewhere between that blue line and that purple line. Just the thing to take away from this graph is the blue line here. We're looking at 2027. That's not that far. The thing we got to keep in mind for both the water projects and the wastewater projects is they're years in the making. So we're working on the well projects now, but it's a pretty safe bet to say that that's at least a 5-year project. So you can see that, we got to continue working on these and working towards solutions because they are longer term projects. Clifford is in a little better shape but again, if development takes off there, you can see that wastewater line. There's a possibility of it getting down to zero, and that's about 2035. So it's interesting to have all these on paper and kind of see the windows that we're working with.
Yeah, for the Clifford sewage, that just shows the difference between having some sort of growth regulation in place and not. If that was to just go off at a be developed very quickly, it could get ahead of us. But if we had some sort of allocation in place, that would mitigate that.
So the next steps that we're planning on with this is, as they mentioned, we're going to continue with the Class EA, which looks at the whole water system and gives us suggestions on what we can do to build supply. We have drilled a test well in Hairston just to see if we could get a good water supply, and preliminary is that we have decent water there. That may or may not be part of the solution, but the EA will tell us and dictate us how we're going to do that. We're in the exploratory phase of looking for well sites in Palmerston. That if the EA comes out and says that that's a thing that we want to do, then we're prepared to again drill a test well and be ready to go with that. But as Todd said, and Mark, both said that this is a 3 to 5 year plan. We just can't say we're out of water next year. We got to quick put up a well. So we want to be proactive and keep going with this. the second thing is we're going to, upon your direction, we're going to report back to you on a proposed framework for an allocation. So what an allocation bylaw does is it allows us to control growth. So we allocate so many units per year that we want to grow out instead of saying we're just going to let the throttle go. We're going to let as many go as we can so that we can kind of control how fast the communities grow and how many sewer and water units we give out every year. So we're going to come back to you with a proposed bylaw for discussion on that. And then, yeah, we're going to continue the I&I mitigation work. They do a great job with that, and they found a lot of extraneous flows that have really helped our capacity over the years. And that work has been vital in specifically Palmerston in growing a lot of capacity at the wastewater plant there with the I&I work there. So that is our report and update for surface.
Thanks, Chris. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Council of the Town of Minto receive report PW 2023-021 regarding servicing reserve capacity update for information. That Council of the Town of Minto directs staff to create a service allocation bylaw to be presented at a future council meeting for approval. Any questions for any of these three guys? Ron?
Water towers, are they included in this? I think if they got, like, long.
Yeah, the water towers are included.
Should have done this, sorry.
Yeah, the water towers are included. You'll see in those graphs that there's storage capacity. So the one place where storage capacity has been highlighted in the future is Palmerston. The other sites have enough capacity to get them out to the 2050 mark, but Palmerston will be something we'll be looking at in the future.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Your turn.
Yeah, just a comment, Mr. Chair. I mean, I think this is great information. And I mean, it really, it's really quite necessary because it'd be tough to have a bunch of houses or businesses that we wouldn't be able to have them hooked up. That would be devastating. So, I mean, it's nice to know. It's essential to know where we're at to be able to plan. It gives us more information if we do need to go to the province. I mean, we're out of capacity, and I'm sure there's all kinds of municipalities in that boat right now. But the way we're being pushed, it's great information. So thank you for putting that together.
There's no further questions. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Our next report is for a submersible pump tender results, and I'm going to have Mark Robertson report on that.
Thank you. Yeah, as mentioned, it's the submersible pump tender results for the Yonge Street sewage pumping station in Harrison. We had two bidders pull. SPL Industrial Pumps from Barrie and Exilum Canada. SPL Pumps submitted a bid for $65,042, which was the low bid. We have worked with both these companies before and had zero issues with either one of them. Yeah, no issues with warranty or supply at all. The funds will be coming through the approved 2023 capital budget. Anybody has any questions?
Thanks, Mark. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. Council of the Town of Minto receives report PW 2023-022 regarding RFT 2023-09 flight model NP 3202 submersible pump tender results, and the council approves the purchase of the flight model NP 3202 submersible pump from SPL Industrial Pumps and Equipment Inc. with a price of $65,042 excluding HST. Any questions from Mark?
Through you, Chair. The pump that you're taking out is, can it be refurbished?
Yes, yeah. So it'll come out and it'll be refurbished.
And do you have a backup pump there as well?
Yeah, there are two pumps at the station.
Two?
And that way we'll take that one out, refurbish it, and then pull the third one and put the refurbished one in.
Mayor Turk.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, Mr. Chair. How old are they?
They were installed December 21st, 2006. So almost 17 years old.
It's pretty good life. Wonder what they were worth then.
Maybe should have bought
These
another one.
ones have gold impellers.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, that's a good service life.
Yep, they run every day.
Any other questions? See none, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? It's passed. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to pass the chair back to Mayor Turton.
Thank you very much. We're going to move into a report from Ashley. It has to do with the Michael and Tracy Schaus, Urban LLA at 41 Park Street, Clifford, part lot 61 and 62, concession D. Go ahead, Ashley.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Turton. So consent application B7123 is being considered before Wellington County's Land Division Committee for a proposed lot line adjustment, which would sever approximately 14.4 acres of vacant agricultural land that is within the Clifford urban boundary to merge with the abutting future development lands. The severed lands were brought into the Clifford urban boundary earlier this year as a result of a provincially initiated modification to Official Plan Amendment 119. The retained lands would be approximately 99 acres, and they do remain outside of the urban boundary. The province, under the direction of the new Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, recently announced their intent to reverse previously implemented modifications to OPA 119 unless there are changes that the lower tier municipality supports. Minto was one of multiple municipalities in the county that had modifications made to the OPA that impacted them. While some municipalities are supporting a reversal for the lands in their jurisdiction, others are asking that the provincial changes remain as implemented. Ultimately, the provincial decision will determine whether these lands stay within the urban boundary of Clifford or not, and the provincial commenting deadline does not end until December 7th. As such, town staff are of the opinion that until the province makes the decision on whether these lands stay within the urban boundary or not, that this application is premature, so we are recommending that it be deferred until the province formally makes their decision. And more information regarding OPA 119 is going to be brought forward later this meeting by Terry.
So the recommendation is moved by Councillor Gudson, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz, that the Council of the Town of Minto recommends the County of Wellington Land Division Committee defer consent application B7123 from Michael and Tracy Schaus for land legally described as part of Lot 61 and 62, Concession D, in the former Village of Clifford, Town of Minto, County of Wellington, with municipal address of 41 Park Street West. Questions for Ashley? I think the thing is we've spent, our staff has spent a lot of time, the county spent a lot of time on a lot of these issues, and things change from the government from day to day. So put it on hold like this until they make up their mind. I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. The next item is Plan 2023-051, B7823, Ontario 2591990, Tim Shantz, Urban Residential Severance at 550 Wellington Street, Palmerston, Lot 4 ES, Wellington Street, Herman and Bolton Survey. It's a mouthful. Ashley, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So consent application B7823 is being considered before the County of Wellington's Land Division Committee to sever the existing urban residential lot into two lots that are each approximately 0.1 acres in size. Currently, there is a single detached dwelling on the lot that is proposed to be demolished. That's just shown on the screen there in Figure 2. And the intent of this severance is so that each half of the proposed semi can be sold with distinct and separate ownership. Town staff are satisfied that lot area and frontage requirements are met, as well as provincial and county policy. Semi-detached dwellings are permitted with the existing zoning of the property, as well as additional dwelling units provided the zoning provisions are met, for instance, sufficient parking and municipal servicing. All zoning provisions will be further reviewed and confirmed prior to the issuance of a building permit, and at this stage in the process, it really is to divide the lot into two separate lots. Standard conditions for an urban infill lot have been included, such as the owner confirming they're aware that a grading, drainage, and servicing plan must be approved by the town prior to the issuance of a building permit, that the parkland dedication fee is paid, that the existing single detached dwelling is demolished, that the owner confirms they are aware that any right-of-way works are solely their financial responsibility, that all right-of-way works are completed by a pre-qualified contractor and securities are submitted, and that each lot is to be serviced individually. Staff have also included a condition that the owner confirms they're aware that any trees within the town-owned right-of-way and any trees on the adjacent town-owned lands may not be removed without the explicit permission given by the town. And staff are recommending that Council of the Town of Minto recommends that the Land Division Committee approve the consent application with the conditions outlined in the town report.
Thank you, Ashley. We have a recommendation moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The Council of the Town of Minto recommends the County of Wellington Land Division Committee approval consent application 2591990 Ontario Inc. See care of Tim Shantz for land legally described as Lot 4, ES Wellington Street, Herman and Bolton Survey, Town of Minto, Palmerston, with the municipal address of 550 Wellington Street, Palmerston, that the following 9 conditions be considered. Is there questions for Ashley? Go ahead, Councillor Potnovitz.
Mayor. I'm just confused as to why they went through a consent application and didn't go with lifting apart lot control after the fact.
So the county has a policy in place that unless it's been through the public process, part lot control is not eligible to be used. And generally speaking, part lot control tends to be more favored for newer developments. So where you build out a subdivision and then you go divide the townhomes after the fact once it's built, or the semis in that situation. But essentially, it hasn't been through the public process yet, so that's why they have to go through the severance route.
Other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're now moving into Plan 2023-5052, the Harris rezoning application, 9294 King Street South, Harrison. And I'm going to ask our CBO to lead us through this. Terry, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Turton. Since the last since the last meeting, which was the public meeting, town staff did reach out to the property owner's consultant to provide justification or a planning justification letter to describe why, in their planning opinion, the proposal or application does not contravene the provincial policy statement. A letter or correspondence in support of Mr. Harris's application was provided by his consultant, but the item that we were most interested in the contravention of the PPS identified by Maitland as well as our planners was not addressed. The other thing is staff was looking into this report. It came, I'm not sure why I didn't think about it in the last one, but it came to our attention that as the building permit was issued for a principal unit with an ADU, the province has recently exempted accessory dwelling units from development charges. So in the event that this permit was issued for a semi, additional almost $21,000 in development charges for both the town and the county would have had to be paid at that time. As really nothing has changed from the staff's position, staff remains not in support of the application.
Okay, recommendation moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report Plan 2023-052 for ZBA 2023-06. Harris for lands with the municipal address of 9294 King Street South, and considers a bylaw in open session. Questions, Terry? Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I'm just wondering if those development fees, can they be collected by the town or the county after the fact?
That I am not sure. I was thinking that as the property needs to be split, or that's the intent, that it could be included as a condition of the essentially redevelopment or reclassification of the property from or into a semi-detached opposed to a principal with the ADU. The only thing that I'm concerned about from our DC bylaw perspective, that it does allow for residential expansions within the building without having to pay additional DCs. So it's something I'm not certain legally we could go back and collect. But I was going to investigate that if that's the direction we go.
Okay, thanks. I was just curious.
Other questions? Go ahead. Deputy Mayor Anderson.
It's interesting to me that we're discussing that we could go either way, because from my understanding, the Provincial Planning Act is clear, and this building is a single dwelling with an additional unit. There is no option to make it a double building or a duplex.
It's not in conformity of the PPS, so that I agree with that statement.
So we would then have to go in violation of the province's Planning Act to approve
That
this
you,
going
yes,
ahead.
the approval of it would be in contravention of the PPS.
So when the recommendation is asking that we're considering a bylaw, what bylaw exactly are we considering? Or is there one to consider?
So there is a bylaw attached to, I believe it's Curtis's report, which basically, if
Okay.
council approves it, it remains as is.
Okay.
Um,
So that means that this wouldn't go ahead. If we supported this bylaw, it means that it is what it is. It's a single dwelling with an additional dwelling unit. End of story.
Correct. Oh, Curtis may have
Yeah,
some
maybe
extra
I
points.
can speak to that. So I prepared the bylaw, excuse me. Yeah, good evening, Mayor Curtin and councilors. So I prepared the bylaw in light of council's direction at the public meeting. So it is prepared if council wish to approve or support the rezoning. I prepared a bylaw that would facilitate that approval. So the bylaw does, it recognizes it as 2 units.
Okay.
And this was limited in light of, also in light of comments of the Conservation Authority, where one of their 2 concerns, the first concern was that if it was rezoned to R2 as requested by the applicant, that it would actually be providing additional development opportunity on the property, and that was one of their concerns. So that's basically, I came up with the bylaw to limit it to 2 units. And then the other concern of the Conservation Authority is outlined in their comments was due to potential severance of the property and floodplain and safe access.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just through you, Mayor Turton. I just wanted to advise, this report is for council's consideration. You don't make a decision on this report itself. The decision is actually made during the bylaw later in the meeting on whether you wish to pass that bylaw or not. So this report is for your information and to ask questions, and then the decision is made later in the meeting during the bylaw presentation.
I'm just wanting to clarify that if we pass the bylaw, what does that bylaw actually allow? I want to make sure that we're all crystal clear on what's entailed. So you're saying that the bylaw is there and it would allow it to be 2 separate units? If we passed it?
Yeah, through Mayor Turton. So yeah, if you pass the bylaw listed later, it would wording recognize it as the existing dwelling as a semi-detached. So,
but that would fly in the face of the Provincial Planning Act and your recommendations.
yes.
Okay, I just want to be crystal clear on what we're talking about here. Thank you.
Other questions? So the bylaw states, if passed, that it is what it is, but it'll be 2, there'll be 2 principal dwellings, never anything else built on that lot. Okay. Other questions? Go ahead.
So I have not a question. Sorry,
Get closer to your microphone,
oh, sorry.
please. Thank
Not
you.
a question, but a comment. I'm unclear. Like, this was clear. This was made clear, as is outlined in Terry's report, that this was not an option. I'm sort of curious why we're even considering it, because it flies in the face of the Provincial Planning Act. it flies in the face of the recommendations from both the Ministry of Environment and our own building department. And it leaves the way open for other people to not pay attention to our current building laws and bylaws, which we have in place, because this is not the first time this has come forward. That, oh, we made a mistake, but we'll just work around it. And I can't support that. I don't think that's the right way for us to proceed in business. So that's just my comments.
Other questions, other comments? Okay, so all in favor of the recommendation?
This is just a recommendation to
is a
consider the
recommendation
bylaw in, that's
to
coming up.
receive
So, yes.
the report.
Okay. Yes.
Okay? So
It's
we're
very
re-
confusing.
It's not. It's a recommendation to receive the report. We'll deal with the rest of it later. Okay? So we're receiving the report. If there's no further questions, then all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So we'll move along to the next one. It's Plan 2023-053, the OPA 119 amendment, and we'll ask our CBO Terry Kuipers to carry us through this one.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Turton, again. So as council is aware, after the county approved OPA 119, it does go to the provincial level for their final sign off on it. At that level, additional lands within the urban boundary of Clifford were added that weren't proposed or approved by the county. Since then, the province is proposing to reverse all of the urban boundary expansions that it had proposed, in addition to the reversal of the greenbelt lands, so both the lands that they pulled in and took out. So they're opening it up for basically reversing any amendment that they made to the OPs. So although not applicable to Greenbelt amendments, the province did send municipalities who had urban boundary expansions a letter saying that, yes, our intent is to reverse it out. However, if the municipality and the lower tier municipality is in support of leaving the lands in, the province is receptive to considering that. They did say consider, they didn't say approve, refuse. They would consider what our input would be. As council is also aware, through the MCR process, 40 acres of additional residential lands were identified as needed within the urban boundaries of Clifford, of Minto in general. So if the lands that the province put into Clifford remain, that would take about 16 of those 40 acres away. So we still have a deficit or a need of additional lands to be added. Although Palmerston has been our historical largest growing center, one of the big contributors to this is the fact that Palmerston had lots of easily developable lands. So council will recall when we sold railway lands to private developers, they were snapped up and built very quickly, which just shows the growth need in Clifford. But due to the lack of available lots, that the growth has been historically slow. Council is also aware through a previous planning application this evening that a developer is interested or is working on a plan of subdivision in Clifford for the Shouse lands that were remained in, and is interested in these additional lands to increase the size of that development. So as the town is working with the developer, is working with the developer to build these lands, and Clifford has sufficient servicing capacity, staff has prepared this report and request council to consider a resolution requesting the lands to be left within the urban boundary of Clifford. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
So I read somewhere that the council was taking away subdivisions out of Clifford and moving them to Palmerston. That isn't what you were saying. So that's not true.
With OPA 119, the county was not in favor of including these lands within the urban boundary of Clifford. The rationale or reason for it, when doing the MCR study, it was very number focused. So looking at, not from a local like feet on the ground perspective, unfortunately, but from like a high level numbers function that we should put all the land in Palmerston because Palmerston has the highest historical growth. But as I mentioned with the rail lands, that was a bubble once developable lands were introduced. So that is what staff's feeling is. The other thing with just dumping including arbitrary lands within the urban boundary of Palmerston, wherever they are around the outside, if the owner isn't interested in developing the land, so I hypothetically add the lands right adjacent to Chris within the urban boundary for development, but it's owned by a cash cropper who has no intent of developing it as residential. It looks good on paper that we have all this extra land, but if there's not anyone interested in building it, we don't grow. So with working with this developer up in Clifford, there's the potential of this moving ahead a lot more quickly than other locations or expressions of interest that we have had.
So we're not telling somebody not to build in Clifford.
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No.
And that's the story that's out there.
Unfortunately, yes, I've heard the
Yes.
same one, but that's, not the case.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Prior to the minister's zoning order that put this area inside the Clifford boundary, that area wouldn't have been allowed under the provincial policy statement. Like, we couldn't just say, yes, let's allow this building there. Is that true?
Yes, we could. Once that additional 40 acres of land was requested to be allocated, we could have included that in. As I mentioned previously, the county was not supportive of it based on raw numbers, but it could have been lands that could have been added back in through OPA 120, which was, the MCR official plan.
Okay, because we did take some of the urban boundary from Clifford and from Hairston and put it to Palmerston.
That is correct. And even part of these lands, or the lands that the province put in, were part of those lands that we removed. And the reason why we, as staff, recommended that they were removed out of the urban boundary is from a desktop perspective of the lay of the land there. It didn't look like it could be developed feasibly without lift stations and lots of expensive infrastructure. Through topographical surveys done by the developer, they're confident that gravity flow to our existing system is possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? I mean, it was the developer that really wanted that months ago. And it was actually, I believe it was the developer that got his own way on that to have it included. So, I mean, I agree with you, Terry, if we've got a developer and we have the capacity, I agree with the resolution. Why wouldn't we keep it in and go forward? But that's why we have a resolution. So any other questions? All right, so everybody understand what we're doing here, or have I, did I read that, Annalee? I don't think I did.
No, I think I would
Sorry.
actually maybe just give it a quick
I
change
will.
as well if you, for purposes of writing, is that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report planning 2023-053 for OPA 119 for lands within the Town of Minto and pass a resolution requesting the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to allow the Clifford urban boundary expansion lands to remain.
Okay, so even if we agree to this and we want it to remain, there's no guarantee that it'll remain.
That's correct. The minister's letter was to consider our position. So
Everybody understand what we're voting on? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. Going to pass the chair to Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And on the finance agenda, we have one item, and that is the promised third quarter financial review. And I'll pass it over to our treasurer to take us through that, please.
Great. Thank you, Chair Dirksen. That's right. We try to meet our promises. So here's the third quarter review, high level. Again, we're quite pleased to say that we're very close to being on target. Mark has set up some tables comparing 21, 22, and 23. And I do think it's interesting. We're quite different from 21, but very close to 22. And as we all know, 21 is not a typical year, much like 2020. And it shows up in the numbers. So our expenses are running about 69% of budget, and excluding taxes, revenue is about 79%. Again, a lot of that revenue is unconditional grants that come in the first 3 quarters of the year, plus other user fees, especially in community services. Water and sewer were the non-tax supported budgets. Again, about 61%, revenues of 78%. Again, fairly typical to previous trends. Taxes, so if everybody paid their taxes right on, we'd be 100% of the 11.9, but we're at 95%, and that's not bad either. It may be a little higher tax arrears than during the height of the shutdown, but certainly historically that's very good. So we have tables that show by department, percentages, actual versus budget. And again, I think the important one is the bottom part of page 2, where we look at the trends over time. When we sat down to look at the figures, we said these are remarkably consistent, like they're 0.6% off 22. And on the water and wastewater, we're like 0.2% within last year. So very consistent. Capital, again, just looking back and, we talk about what's out there, and often municipalities are saying, oh, they're sitting on all these approved capital projects that haven't been done. We've done about 85% of what's approved, and usually it's because there's been cost changes or there's been changes in priorities and other projects come along. So that kind of indicates what we have remaining in terms of water and wastewater. And several of these large capital projects, they're multi-year, as Todd was just saying, especially when you need certain environmental approvals and engineering and design too. Again, the highlights, as we all know, we've done a lot of upgrades to our computer hardware, software. Fire and emergency services have implemented the personal protective equipment and the radio upgrades. Happy to say, talking about emergency preparedness, we're virtually complete with the generator installations at the 3 water towers. Most of the road projects are proceeding well, and by the end of September, we're largely complete. The largest project could be the Palmerston Clarifier, which I think it's got to be like 99% of the way now. We've been working on SCADA in the water department, as well as getting the new well, for Minto Pines. I think a lot of the physical work's done, and we hope to have it in place spring of 24. Again, the Palmerston Arena expansion was the largest project in community services, and I think we're now enjoying the new kitchen and the pedestrian bridge, some much needed maintenance again. Economic, it's more servicing remaining industrial land, and no large initiatives there. So I would say, barring bad snowstorms in December, I think we're on track to complete the year pretty much as forecast. So that we take in
Thank you, Treasurer
questions. or-
Duff. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Not a question, just a comment. I personally find this very helpful. It gives you a good idea that we're sort of on track. And although you're a very reliable source for emergency expenditures, I think it's better if we don't have to go, so board, can we afford this?
Yeah. Yeah, we're on board with that.
Yeah, so thank you very much for everybody's hard work preparing this.
Great.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. It gives us a much better idea of where we're at. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to read the recommendation. Find it, here it is. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson and seconded by Councillor Zimmerman that Council of the Town of Minto receives report Finance 2023-018 regarding the 2023 third quarter financial review. All in favor? Thank you, that carries, and I'll pass the chair
Thank
back
you.
to the mayor.
I'll pass the chair to our deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. And I'm just going to pass it over to Chief Harrow to give us a report on an airfill station and compressor tender award.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Anderson. Excuse me. I'll be brief. This is the second part of our purchase with our SCBA air packs. Unfortunately, our air packs came in a little bit higher than what we anticipated, so this got bumped to the 2024 budget. So this is a pre-approval for the 2024 capital budget. But it is a necessary item that unfortunately our SCBA air packs will not work, and thus we can fill the bottles. So this is part of upgrading that. We put a tender out. We had 4 bids. The lowest bid was AJ Stone, who fortunately for us also happened to be the one that was the successful one for the SCBA apparatus themselves. So one supplier working with both things, both items, so it makes it easier for us.
Any questions for Chief Harrow? Yes, Councillor Elliott.
I see you work with Mount Forest Fire Hall too. Now, did we get a better deal because we had 2 different halls bidding on this?
It's hard to say. We definitely had more people bid probably because there was 2 compressors and we could lump them together. So it's hard to say whether we got a better deal or not, but I would like to think so, but we didn't ask that in the proposal.
Any other questions? Comments? Yes, Mayor Turton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So here's the boosting from 2,200 to 4,500. I mean, that means that it's not a 30-minute thing now anymore. It's 45, or is that?
Correct. Yeah, our old apparatus were considered 30-minute bottles. These are 45-minute bottles. So it gives us more time. What it does is gives us more time to get into the seat of fire, and it also gives us more time to get out. So actual working time is probably 20 minutes on one of these. So that gives time to get in and get out, where the other ones were 10 to 15. So it is the new industry standard for fire apparatus is 45-minute bottles.
So we have the bottles, or they're coming?
They are coming. These compressors are a minimum 16-week. So that was the other reason why we wanted to get this done now, because it's at least 16 weeks. So, and then installation and then training on the packs. We kind of wanted to have it all done that we're getting them.
We're still covered for till the 16 weeks are over. Where our present compressor's okay, and even if we use the new bottles.
The present compressor will not fill the new bottles. So we will continue with our old apparatus and filling them until both the compressor and the new SCBA apparatus have to go into service at the same time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Sorry.
Thank you. I'm just curious, what do you do with the old compressor and the old bottles? Are you used to them?
There's not much use for them. The compressor we're going to try and trade in. We're going to negotiate a deal to trade it in or sell on the open market. It's not worth too much because, again, it's being phased out by the fire service to go away from 30 minutes. So to send it to another fire department to buy is probably not going to happen. So our last one, that when we did this, actually 17, 18 years ago when I started here, when I bought the first round of air packs, it was sold to a scuba company in Wyerton that used it to fill scuba bottles. So there might be, hopefully, that company's, our old compressor's out and they want another one.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Podnowitz, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. Council of the Town of Minto receives report fire 2023-004 regarding the airfill station and compressor tender award, and that the purchase of a new airfill station and compressor unit be awarded to A.J. Stone in the amount of $63,447, excluding HST, being the Town of Minto portion of the award. I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? And that's passed. And I will pass the chair back to Mayor Turk.
And we're up to announcements, and we'll start with Councillor Dirksen.
I don't believe I have anything tonight. Thank you.
I'd just like to say a big thank you to everyone that participated in the Harriston Christmas parade last weekend. I think it was probably one of our better ones in hindsight. And a reminder, this Saturday is the Clifford Santa Claus Parade and Christmas in the Street, which is starting at 5 p.m. Maker's Market, all kinds of good things, and then a big parade afterwards. So, hope everyone shows.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Thank you. I have a couple of announcements. So one that I'm excited about, and hopefully everybody else is, Dr. Cressy has reopened his practice in Palmerston, which is a very good news story. So he's located in the rural Minto building beside the hospital there. He's readily available to accept new clients, and he asked me to relay this at council, and his number that he can be reached at, or his office number, would be 866-947-8539. And that's in addition to him working with the Ministry of Health provincially and regionally to work his way through the lists of people who don't have a family physician, but he's prepared to take a client base of up to 2,000 patients and then engage an NP to work with him. So that's a very good news story for us. And the second item is just to let folks know that the Christmas dinner will be happening again this year, December 25th at the Harriston Arena, and posters will be going out shortly in regards to that. But hopefully we won't have any blizzards. Hopefully COVID won't be all over the place, so it plans to be our first sit-down dinner in the last 4 years. But either way, it will carry on. If we can't sit down, meals will be delivered or takeout or pick up or whatever. We'll get food to people. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, just on last week, we just had light up the park in Palmerston. Amazing light display that they put on, and fireworks, and the mayor was there and saw a lot of it. It was quite impressive. Linda and her group had a lot to do with it. The Lions Club certainly put most of the lights up. It was, I would guess, I'm just guessing, probably around 1,000 people there through the town. We thank them for being part of it. It's an amazing show. Add more lights next year.
Councillor Podnovitz?
Just, I've noticed some advertising papers, and I think Glenn sent something around in regards to our food banks. I think the supplies are getting low, and I would just encourage everybody to seek out the local food banks or any place where they're taking donations and do our part.
Councillor Gunson?
Sorry, I have nothing.
So I really, I just like to echo what's been said here. I'm really amazed with the turnouts from folks in the area to all the things that are happening in Minto, and there seems to be a lot of good things going on, a lot of wonderful volunteers volunteering their time and bringing all this stuff forward. For sure the Santa Claus parades, basically the fire service runs all that, and it's all volunteers, and it's wonderful. I was exactly the same as Councillor Zimmerman on Saturday night in Harriston. It was amazing. The parade was lovely. The number of people that were on the street, it was amazing. November 11th, same thing. The legions are two legions, all three services that were going on, the number of people that were out, and congratulations to the Legion for continuing to do that. It's so important to our community. So I'm just asking everybody to support local. Our Chamber of Commerce is out there pushing, and a lot of our local merchants need our help. So think twice before you go out of town. I'm asking you that on behalf of council and our staff, and so thank you. We have a resolution moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Committee of the Whole convenes into regular council. All in favor of that motion? Carried, thank you. Resolution moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Potnovich, that the Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motion. Motion's made in the Committee of the Whole. All in favor of that motion? That's
Through you.
carried.
Sorry. Just notice of motion, did you?
Oh,
sorry, call for
I
notice
skipped
of
right
motion.
over notice of motion. Pardon me. Thank you, Annalee. Any notices of motion? Next item is bylaws. Moved by Councillor Potnovich, second by Councillor Dirksen, that bylaw 2023-065 be read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with the seal of the corporation. So this is the rezoning of 92, 94 King Street South, Harrison, or Harris. And so this motion is saying that we are doing what, Annalee?
This motion would be passing the draft bylaw provided by the county, and it provides for it to be a semi-detached dwelling, I believe, with a few minor changes into it. I'm not allowing a couple different things, so.
Okay, so if everybody understands this motion, we don't normally discuss bylaws, but as long as everybody understands what we're voting on, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? Okay, that's defeated. So
I'll oppose it, I could.
I'll say all opposed to that motion?
Thank you.
Okay. So we're into the confirmatory bylaw 2023-067, moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that bylaw 2023-067 to confirm the actions of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Minto respecting a meeting held November 21st, 2023, be read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? Adjournment. Resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the Council of the Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor of that motion? Thank you very much. That was a very, very good meeting.